We have been passing here for long and we are seeing the same debt today. They told us that the people that are in charge of the debt, they will come and carry it. But same thing, every day we saw it there. So we don't know what is happening.
There is garbage everywhere. The trash piles up and blocks the road. It even slows down traffic. It's filthy and it smells bad too.
Nous mourons. Les enfants qui y vont à l'école, matin, midi, soir, ils rentrent. Est-ce que c'est normal, monsieur le journaliste?
Although announcements of transfer centers have been made in the past to improve collections, neighborhoods remain dirty. To some inhabitants, the situation results from a halt and failure in household waste collection.
Toutes les villes du Cameroun, en général, j'allais dire, c'est devenu déjà la poubelle. Il n'y a même pas moyen de garer ailleurs. Toutes les routes sont d'ailleurs étroites.
On est fatigué de la poubelle. Les mauvaises odeurs.
Residents are anxiously waiting for resolutions which will definitely move them out of this unsanitary condition.
Siricha Kucho reporting there. Now we talk something else. The fight to rebuild education remains a major concern for communities and development stakeholders in Cameroon's Anglophone regions. Several years into the ongoing Anglophone crisis, with the number of children out of school still alarmingly high, estimated at nearly 500,000 in 2026, local communities are working hard to rebuild the broken pieces of the education sector. Among them are the people of Libym division who are resolved to revive learning, starting with Our Lady Seat of Wisdom. The Fond of Fontem says they are building on green zones as part of efforts to restore hope. From Armstrong Sander has more on that story.
The crisis, which began in 2016, disrupted the educational pathways of over 1.8 million school-age children in the Anglophone Northwest and Southwest regions. As prospects and hopes widen for a total return to normalcy, statistics remain disturbing. Approximately 488,000 school kids are still out of school in these regions by 2026, a preoccupying situation to community leaders and stakeholders like those of the Libym division in the Southwest region and their development partners like the Folklore movement. Revamping the education of their children and boosting the well-being of their people took central stage in Douala amidst activities commemorating the 60th anniversary of the Folklore movement in Cameroon.
I think that with the triple anniversary is going to cause or encourage sons and daughters of Libym who have been displaced as a result of the crisis to go back home and clean their houses and restart their normal lives. With this celebration, is also going to pass a very strong message to the administration that those projects which were suspended or those areas which were labeled as red zones are now green zones, where projects can restart again. Our roads can be rebuilt, our electricity can be reinstalled, which will also encourage our people who depend on these facilities to come back home and start their normal life. So this celebration is going to be a booster, a strong message to all the quarters of the administration, to government, and to the common population that life is back in Libym. Thank you.
Correspondently marking the 60th anniversary of the creation of Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College Fontem, the people of Libym say that time is now to revive the school and their entire community.
With gradual normalization, we need all this collective effort because unity is strength. The occasion today was to set the pace for a new beginning so that united we revive not only Seat of Wisdom College but our entire community.
The event that was championed by the celebration of a Holy Mass provided an opportunity for participants to name the blessings of the Folklore movement in the Libym division and Cameroon in general.
The theme ties with what the Banwa Mundane people have experienced since the 1960s, when the Folklore movement came to our community. At that time, there were a lot of problems, a lot of suffering, illnesses. Infant mortality was very high. We had this illness that they used to call sleeping sickness. Many people don't know about sleeping sickness today because
in the form of a triple anniversary, the event also marked the 25th anniversary of the launching of the new evangelization by Madame Kiara.
If I'm here today, 25 years after the launching of the new evangelization, it is to enlighten the younger generation. Some people were not yet born, that the legacy, the special gift, the inspiration that Mama Kiara left with us, Mafondem Kiara left with us in the year 2000 during her last visit to Douala, should never die.
Calling on sons and daughters of the land, elite and ex-students to come on board before December, the people say that they will not allow the structures and facility built to their people by the folklore movement in the Libym division to go in ruins.
And still in education, as schools close and children begin their long holidays across Cameroon, what should be a time of rest and equally happiness is now causing growing concern for many families. Cases of child kidnapping and sexual violence are becoming more common in communities, leaving parents worried about the safety of their children. Law Maneru tells us more.
From the bustling streets of Douala to the restive regions in the north and west, the statistics are alarming. In 2026, kidnapping for ransom and cases of sexual abuses are being reported at a rate that demands immediate intervention. A psychologist brings out possible solutions to prevent this.
La première source d'activité, c'est ce qu'on appelle les activités ludiques. Les activités ludiques, c'est essentiellement des jeux.
The first thing is to allow them play, which is very important. Secondly, a utility activity and scholar activities.
Cette activité lucrative, enfin cette activité utile pour les parents et l'activité scolaire.
Vigilance and good holiday program is what best describes the preventive measures for their children.
Le plus grand danger vient de loisirs.
The biggest danger is oisivity. The fact that they have nothing to do pushes them to go and do anything.
Jusqu'à ce qu'on appelle un décrochage scolaire.
Financial situation, according to him, is not an excuse to send your children out during holidays. Holiday classes is a big mistake because resting their brain is very important. Holiday classes is a big mistake. A child during this period must be in a spirit of rest. A better organization and planification are key elements to protect our children during this precarious period. Psychologists invite all parents to revise their measures for the security of their children.
And now to news beyond our borders. While Kenya and France have signed 11 strategic infrastructure agreements aimed at modernizing the energy and transport sectors, a full price hike in the Comoros has sparked a nationwide strike, crippling commerce and public transportation across the country. Meanwhile, Kenya and France have moved forward with new development partnerships, even as Comoros faces growing social unrest. Mala Glory has details on our front page.
Kenya and France signed 11 agreements on Sunday aimed at deepening cooperation across strategic sectors. The agreements were signed at the State House following talks between President William Ruto and French President Emmanuel Macron. They cover several areas including energy, transport, digital infrastructure and sustainable fuel projects. Macron said the agreements are intended to support long-term development and improve public services in Kenya. Ruto described relations between the two countries as long-standing and strategically important. Macron is in Kenya for the Africa Forward Summit, which begins this Monday. The summit is a forum bringing together African leaders, investors and business executives to discuss trade, infrastructure and economic partnerships across the continent. And elsewhere, the Comorian government's decision to hike fuel prices has triggered a nationwide strike, paralyzing transport and commerce following President Azali Assoumani's warning about global economic instability. Decrees were issued, raising diesel by 46%, petrol by 33%, and kerosene by 29%, while the government also increased transport fare. The National Drivers Union launched an indefinite strike on May 10th, arguing that high costs still make their operations unprofitable. To ease the burden, the state announced a 40% decrease in import taxes on rice, flour and oil for 3 months, alongside austerity measures for senior officials. However, the movement has expanded, with merchants and water vendors joining the shutdown. The Comorian Consumers Federation now warns of a severe cost of living crisis and market speculation as the standoff between the state and labor union intensified.
And now we talk sports. Witchcraft allegations overshadow the League One clash between Canon Sportif of Yaoundé and Unisport Aucun, as Canon players reportedly avoided the dressing room and entered the pitch on the backs of their teammates. Despite the controversy, Canon managed to hold league leaders Unisport to a goalless draw. Smaji Kangibla, sportsman, has the details.
It was one of the top games of the Elite One Championship this weekend. League leaders Unisport Bafang challenging visitors Canon Sportif of Yaoundé, with the last 3 matches of the league leaders played only in the evening and large scores recorded against clubs from Yaoundé, AS Fortuna and Fouf Azou Elite. The belief about the existence of supernatural power in football was brought into play. For this reason, players of Canon Sportif of Yaoundé didn't walk with their feet into the municipal stadium of Bafang. They were simply carried by reserve players. The act didn't end at that level, as Canon refused using the dressing room of the stadium but decided to change into their jerseys on the pitch. Canon became the first club to stop Unisport Bafang from scoring a goal since they started playing night games at the municipal stadium in Bafang, as it ended goalless. In the whole, 17 goals were scored in the 7 matches played, with 3 visiting clubs: Colombe Sportif of Janelobo, PWG of Bamenda and Cotton Sport of Garwa taking all 3 points from their host. Victoria United considered the most goals of match day 18 as they succumbed to Aigle Royal of Menua 4-1.
The report done by sportsman Smaji Kangable ends this first part of the news. Talking Point comes up next. Tonight on Talking Point, we'll be receiving a civil society actor who goes by the name Song Derick, and we'll be discussing on the problem of waste in this country. Good evening, Derick. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Good evening, Emma, and good evening to the management of Equinoxe Television. Good evening to its million viewers, especially to the population of Northwest and Southwest. And greetings to all the sons and daughters of Boyo Division. It's always a pleasure to be on your platform to talk about issues that affect the core of the nation. Thanks for having me.
1 year after the General Assembly on Urban Waste Management, organized by the Ministry of Urban Development, headed by Celestine Kecha Kutes, many neighborhoods in cities like Douala and Yaoundé are still overwhelmed by garbage. How you work in Bonaberi in the Douala 4 subdivision. Tell us about the current sanitation situation on the ground.
And that's not only in Bonaberi. If you're in Douala, you go around the cities, in all nooks and crannies, you realize that the waste is piling up more than is being evacuated. You see the waste competing with the roads, and the waste accumulation, like I said, is faster than it is being collected. You have a lot of presence of informal dump sites, People dump waste by the roadside. The drainage systems are very, very poor, and waste is encroaching into living spaces. You can see humans literally fighting with occupying space with waste. And this situation is persisting despite the recent national initiatives of zero dirt in the city of Yaoundé. And a year after, we are still talking dirt. The coup de poing in Yaoundé, sans poubelle, Yaoundé sans poubelle, the national discussions on perhaps waste management. But we have a different reality on the field. If you see the way Cameroonians and Douala denizens are living with dirt, it has become a normal situation. People are normalizing living with dirt. People have normalized perhaps discarding dirt where it is not necessary. And this crisis is becoming a normal situation for residents. We have only one plea. The system needs to be built. The system needs to be constructed in a way that this waste management can be done and followed to the latter. But unfortunately, if you go around, just take a car, just take a motorbike from Bonaberi to Aqua, to Ndokoti, to Bonamusadi, and see the number of heaps of garbage you pass through and how the city is being polluted by this garbage unattended to. It's really a sad situation, and we only wish that the solution should be provided as soon as possible.
Song Derick, it's no news in Cameroon at this moment that heaps of garbage could be found along major streets and junctions in Cameroon. And from your perspective as a civil society actor, why does the sanitation crisis persist despite the commitments that were made during that General Assembly that took place in Yaoundé?
The problem is not lack of awareness. The problem is the issue of implementation, coordination, and accountability. National efforts perhaps led to the Celestine Ketcher's report, consultations, and of course to the General Assembly that held and took positive steps to diagnose the problem and solve the problems of waste management in the cities, especially in Yaoundé, which was the case. But you realize that after the decision, there's a problem with implementation, there's a problem with coordination, and there's a problem with accountability. So weak translation of decisions into action is the main problem. There's a big disconnect between the policy level versus the community reality. It is easier to sit in air-conditioned rooms, take decisions on how to fight waste. But the problem, the real challenge is how do we implement in the field? What's happening that the councils are unable to do this job? What is happening that decentralization is not working? And if it feels like that, I'll tell you, it goes back to three key things that I've mentioned. Implementations of the decision, coordination of decision, and accountability to check whether those decisions that were taken, they are followed to the latter.
As someone working in Bonaberi, where we could see heaps of garbage littering around major streets and junction, how is this waste affecting you and also all those found around it? What are residents telling you today about the impact of poor sanitation in their daily lives and equally public health?
Well, you know, Emma, this is not just an environmental issue. It is a public health emergency in slow motion. It is an emergency that we need to handle with urgency. Living with waste is not just very uncomfortable. It is undignifying. Remember the slogan that cleanliness is next to godliness. We need to keep our houses, our environment and our cities clean. When waste blocks drainage, as it is the case in Douala, it opens door to diseases. You know that we're exposed to malaria, cholera, and other diseases. There's accumulation of mosquitoes, especially in places where the waste are piled. And most often, if you go around the markets, like Granga, Rai, if you go even to Marché Central itself, you go to Ndokoti, you see the places where people sell food ready to consume. You see the kind of environment where that food is served. You ask yourself, are we eating food or we are eating our debt licenses? You ask yourself whether the sanitary department is in charge to check. And the people cannot even do otherwise because the dirt is accumulated there months after months and nobody cares. Sometimes you cannot blame the citizens because when you put dirt in your house after a certain period of time, you are forced to discard it. And if the right place and the right channel is not programmed, what should the people do? But it is a health emergency.
Derick, some observers argue that the sanitation crisis of Cameroon at the moment reflects a deeper governance problem. What's your take on this?
Emma, you will bear with me that sanitation is one of the clearest indicators of government's performance. If you want to measure the KPIs, the key points indicators of a government performance, sanitation, which is clearly linked to health, is one of the measuring rods. When decisions do not translate onto the ground, the issue of execution becomes problematic. And if it is not executed, it's a governance problem because government takes a decision, that decision has to be implemented, it has to be coordinated, and there has to be check and balances to see whether the right thing is being done at the right time. This, to me, I think there is a lack of intention about delivery. Those that matter do not really care to deliver. If systems work very well, waste management will never be a problem in a country. It will not become a visible crisis. Remember, we are discussing at a time when Cameroon is planning to emerge in 2035. We are talking emergence when electricity is still a problem, waste management is still a problem, roads are still a problem. Before talking of industrialization, if basic things like waste management is still a problem, inasmuch as I agree with you that to manage the waste of a nation, it is coordinated. The citizen must partake as a citizen's obligation to the nation by keeping the cities clean, but there should be a coordinated mechanism. If you come to Chateau at Gare Routier, the road is reduced by a heap of garbage. It is very huge. Why? The people have improvised. It is not the council that has asked the people to drop dirt there. But because there is no place defined for dirt to be dropped, the people come at night and drop heaps of garbage. You see the road is very narrow. So there is a people's failure, but to a greater extent, the government is failing us woefully. The government has built a system that is not accountable, a system that is not transparent, and a system that do not implement decisions for the betterment of the citizens.
We are in the 21st century, and during this period, waste management is no longer about collection, as many countries are turning waste into economic opportunities through recycling and also energy production. Why has Cameroon struggled so hard to fully embrace these innovations?
Well, let me say the question is not only about this waste management. Most of the things that Cameroon embraces are always, majority of the time, in a negative. Waste is no longer useless because waste these days is being recycled. And so when we poorly manage it, we do not have value. Waste can be recycled for the production of biogas. Waste can be recycled for manure. Waste can be recycled for a lot of things. But sad, our leaders who every day are in airplanes traveling to better countries, walking the streets of the country. You know, I followed a report done by one of your journalists, Smart Njikan Gabriel, when he visited Morocco during the AFCON. He clearly stated and reported on waste management, how the cities were managed, how the cities are clean, and what has been implemented? Nothing. We will follow the news, we will enjoy the cleanliness of Morocco, but at the end of it, nothing will be done. You cannot build a recycling economy on an unstructured system. An economy that has to recycle must have structures. Structures that work, not structures that only talk. Without organization without an organization, I think waste cannot become an opportunity. Nations that have understood the importance are already using waste as an opportunity. But when you have a slow thinking leadership, when you have a wheelchair-like leadership, then the only thing we can expect is for the country to crawl like where we are. We are crawling, but we still believe in emergence in 2035, even on wheelchair, because that's the only asset Cameroonians have, hope, even against hopelessness.
Son Derick, thank you so much for accepting my invitation and talking point tonight.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Cameroonians. Cameroon does not really lack solutions. What we need now is execution that people can see. We need results on the ground. The measure of progress is not what is said, but what is visible to our communities. We expect those that be and the authorities that be to understand that the bosses in this country are the citizens, and the citizens deserve better.
And we are hoping that those in power will be able to put in all what you have said into practice. And that's what will put a cap to tonight's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for your keen attention. Stay in the company of interesting programs on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.